That sounds pretty good. Let's talk over each other for 2 hours.
Beautiful.
So, well, hey, Doug. I'm with Doug Knight.
Hey, good morning, you
And,
beautiful bastards. How's everybody here?
I know you showed up early. It was wonderful, and that's always a good thing. Punctuality is key.
Yeah, to be early is to be on time. To be on time is to be late.
Exactly, and some people don't get that.
You know, I came here early because I went around the block looking for the pool, and then I said, there's the rub. That's the thing.
My fascination with that damn picture of a pool that I screwed up. I lost the original of that anyway, and I had interposed all the title work on that photo on my phone. And I was like, oh, this is great. This is perfect. And that was before I did anything like set up the RSS feed, do all that stuff, and realized there's another Poolside podcast from 5 years ago.
Is that right?
It's still hosted, but it's not active. So until I'm hoping they drop that so that I can drop the York of it. But at this point, I kind of like it that way. Having the third word in there,
Yeah.
it's a nice verbal. It has the right mouthfeel, so I may as well. Poolside podcast York. Maybe maybe we'll start satellite poolsides. That'd be cool, actually. But yeah, so
I love the title, man. I totally dig it.
It fits well, and I'm not sure why. So it's one of those things. Like I stumble on dumb stuff. Like I was really hyped to get my business cards, and I think logically. So the back of the business card says a bi-weekly podcast, because in my head I was like, it comes out twice weekly. That means bi-weekly. Well, common use says no, and I have I'm sitting next to a common use dictionary setting it up, and I was like, I could check it, but whatever, I'll go with bi-weekly. And then somebody pointed out to me, and I was like,
well, that could be your move, though. Everything that you do is not exactly as literal.
yeah.
So the podcast isn't near a pool, and it's not really bi-weekly.
I was gonna say you haven't seen my yard. I don't know, unless I put a floating pool in. I don't know we're gonna get one. So
Or just have a little kiddie pool in the corner. It's like, that's it. We're next to it, so it
well,
works.
I was gonna say I'm gonna have. I'm not sure that I want to sit in front of Mike Helfrich and have a super serious conversation with him next to a kiddie pool. Like, I feel like I may be diminishing his efforts a little bit. So
Just stick a toe in. All right,
yeah,
here we go.
but speaking of which, so you showed up early and I had to get coffee, so we talked for a little bit. But let's
Got a
go
coffee up.
Yeah, let's go. So let's go back through that. You're a DC transplant, huh?
I am. Yeah, 16 years in D.C. My family is actually from Scranton, Pennsylvania, so Northeast PA. My family, you know.
Right.
But I grew up in New England, in Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
Oh, okay.
So I don't have the New England accent anymore.
Thank you.
Really, I honestly never really have it, except when I'm with my boys every so often. Then I get hot A's and stuff like that going on. I say wicked.
Yeah.
That's wicked good.
Well,
But
where Portsmouth is down by the you're down towards the border, right? Like the border with Massachusetts, or are you way up? Or
no,
you're not way up
it is.
north?
It's on the seacoast, so it's that little small coastline that New Hampshire has.
Oh, okay.
Right over, almost right over the border.
Oh, okay. Like right where like 95 runs through it out of Boston.
Come out of Mass, go into Portsmouth, then you cross the bridge and you're in Maine.
Okay.
That's where I grew up. So I grew up there, and then I went to college in upstate New York, and it made my way to Washington, and then I was in D.C. for 16 years, and then Cupid hit me with the bow. So my future wife is her and her family are from Red Line, and when we actually got serious about what the hell we're gonna do, we bought a house in Red Line and moved up here. So then that got me 5 years ago up here.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I was just. Oh, no, you are married, right? Oh.
I am.
Okay, yeah, I get you. Well, that's cool. How long have you been married? Because you're a little bit older than I am, but
Yeah.
not much.
Yeah. We just celebrated the 2-year anniversary on the 11th.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So last week.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You crossed the major hurdle according to all the stuff that I read,
That's right.
that I read or that I've said before.
That's
It's like,
right.
the second year's the weirdest. Well, you guys had the. Did you buy a home and then did you buy a home to move into after you got married, or were you on that solid ground?
Yeah, we've actually dated for I guess 8 years in total.
Oh, okay.
So we were together for a bit, and then when we said, all right, we're going to think about what we're going to do here, we found a house in Red Line, bought it, moved up, and then that's when we started planning the wedding. So it was sort of bang bang.
Right.
You know.
Well,
a little bit of-
That's like the old. I mean, that is an older pastiche of like, oh yeah, you get a house first, and then you get married, and
Yeah,
then you
that's right.
settle down. It's like, no, it really helps. Like, you wonder why your grandparents are so comfortable with each other. It's because, look, buy the house first, because it alleviates a lot of the pressures of
Yeah.
being like, especially nowadays where the commonality is to be transient, like apartment to apartment,
Yep.
as a married couple trying to like figure out what your goals are or work towards your goals. Man, it's rough.
Yeah.
You know.
You're right about that.
So
You're right about that. Yeah, so we did that whole thing, and I came up this way, and I work in the nonprofit sector, so I did a lot of fundraising and strategic planning and board building and all that stuff for nonprofits, and so I came up this way and kind of ingraced myself into the sector here in the city and around the area, and really got involved in the downtown revitalization movement, and met a lot of awesome people that are putting together great businesses and trying to get things together, and that kind of got me going. And yeah, it's been overdrive ever since, man. Just doing a lot of stuff in town. Just love what's going on. And
yeah.
the thing that's cool about York for me is, and again, as only 5 years here, I still feel like I have the outsider eye, and I always look at York and Lancaster and that kind of thing the same way Scranton and Wilkes-Barre and Northeast PA is.
Yeah.
They're sort of a the sister city kind of thing, and like what one is doing what, and it's one of those things that I think is in constant push pull. Like, people are like, well, look at what Lancaster's doing. Why can't we do this?
Yeah.
Because I heard that same rhetoric in Scranton and Wilkes-Barre all the time. Like, look at Wilkes-Barre, what they're doing, and look, what the hell are we doing here in Scranton?
And like, there's that the just to get off York for a second. There is that romantic thing that like the opening shots of The Office where they show you downtown Scranton.
Yeah.
Like, it's a cute little romantic place. When I was homeless for a little bit. I was working as a parade vendor. I was a novelty salesman at parades, a carny, and we went up and we did the Scranton parade, and that was the thing. My friend who ran the thing was it's like, dude, you gotta stop being a tourist. And I was like, yeah, but look at Scranton. It's a beautiful little place, and like, I was like, this is romantic. Like, this is everything you expect to see in a book. He's like, yeah, but you got to get over that, or else you're never gonna make any money. And I was like, well, yeah, no, but like, yeah, Scranton has that thing where it's like downtown. You get downtown, and it's just a pretty little place with the Art Deco facades and all that. And Wilkes-Barre, like, just passing through.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
There's a weird, and that's I see the connection between these two towns all the time. Like Scranton never. I mean, that's why it went into Act 47. Scranton had a real trouble figuring out its finances and everything, because it kind of was old school. These were miners, I mean, these are guys that they made their money and they cashed it and literally had cash in their pockets and cash in their beds, and they didn't think about future planning or anything. So when as most places in this area, like Hurricane Agnes in '72, like, everybody told the story. I mean, I was born in '72, so I don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah.
Most of these people are like, oh my God, when Agnes came through, and you think, like, oh, was that 2 weeks ago? Like, no, 1972. It's like, holy shit. Well, they were saying, oh, I should probably. I curse. I hope nobody's offended.
Feel free.
It's Italian and Irish. I can't help it. But they talked about all that stuff, and I feel the same thing here. Like, we talk about things that have happened in the past that have precluded us the things to the future.
Yeah.
And I say, like, okay, embrace what we've done, embrace the things that have had good and bad, and then figure out how we can move ahead from that. And I think that's where the younger movement is happening with entrepreneurs and stuff coming in here, is trying to break that cycle.
I think so too, because with everyone that I've had on and everyone that I've actually like talked to over the years, there is a point of just realistic. There's a point of realistic thinking where, that's what we've got, and you have to deal with, like, York's, like, the city now is such an like, between business owners and all that. It's such an intertwined little place, and everybody is either locked in competition, or they're just doing whatever. But there's a point where you realize that, like, okay, we can sit and pester everybody and do the whole hipster thing, like, oh, you guys are God, it's one of the easiest ways to down people nowadays. What is it? We can use the word gentrification all we want,
yeah.
and we can down everybody's work, but at the same time, it's like, okay, but if you see, somebody pointed this out to me a very long time ago, or, well, whatever, 10 years ago, when this all kind of kicked off, which was, look, for right now, it's going to seem exclusive, and it's going to seem like it's kicking doors down for the sake of clearing the hallway, but once we clear the hallway, the building's going to be so much more beautiful, and the building as the community.
Yeah.
And it was like, Yeah, I was an asshole a long time ago, and I used to love to do that to all my like. I used to love to do that to people just because it was fun, and it was like, and then I could wash my hands of it at the end of it, and that was I mean that was the logic behind all of it, and that is the motivator for most people that are down like that say, oh well, don't go downtown because after it gets dark, everybody's waiting around a corner to stab you. It's like, no, you know what? All you're doing is giving yourself the easy out,
Yeah, that's right.
and it's like, yeah, I thought about that this time around because I had a big hump where I wasn't going down. I was hiding out here, honestly. Like I was just, depressed, whatever, reading books, and but like it's like, you know what? I need to get I need to get actually involved. It's not like it is there. There's so many avenues to walk to get down and be part of downtown. You can go and see a ball game. It's little, it's little things. You go see a ball game. You can go take your kids to the market, or go the extra mile. We had Elijah Cross on, try to get him, try to get his whole thing out, which was apparently a very good show. I missed it.
Yeah.
I missed it because of my work schedule. So my apologies, Elijah. I
Shout out Elijah. Rise, baby.
I went back to 70 hours. I'm sorry, but
you and your work hours. Man.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So we can get involved this way. You've got What the York, and then like somebody put out a call. Hey, help us pick up turtles after the turtle derby. So
Yeah.
okay, fine with me. And so I hopped in a kayak and picked up turtles. It's like there's so many ways to be active, and there's a way to be there's the way to get engaged and not you don't have to be engaged to a point where you're running your life around York, but at the same time, as welcoming as most of the people that I know that are involved downtown, it's like once you open that door, you're gonna not want to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
Because it is. I mean, the addiction is seeing, like the addiction downtown is like seeing the progress that gets made every. You do notice it after a while.
I challenge everybody. Look, I'm not the first person to say this, but I challenge everybody to give it a shot, right? To come down and take a look at something that maybe you haven't done before. And I always say start small. One of the big phrases I use all the time in my work and talking everything is singles and doubles matter. You don't have to hit the home run all the time. Singles and doubles make runs the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just do some little things, and you brought up a couple that were really easy to do. We have a fantastic stadium downtown, and we have a really good baseball team for a minor league team, right? They're pretty good. Even if you're not into baseball, you don't even have to be a baseball fan. But if you can just word picture for a second, park downtown, walk down George Street, grab a beer, get a hot dog somewhere, go stop at Bravino for a pizza, and go into the stadium and sort of take it all in. Bring your kids over to the merry-go-round. I mean, it's the last thing I talked about was baseball. Like all these other things are going on around it, and just allow yourself to immerse in that. Or if that's too much for you, literally come down on a Saturday morning to Market and go to Central Market and sit at a table, grab a coffee and have a book and just read and see everything that's going on around you. People shopping and people just, interacting.
Yeah.
And you realize pretty quickly, like, okay, this might not necessarily be exactly what I think. Now, I'm not so idealism, incarnate here to suggest that, at 4 a.m. on some alleyway somewhere down the block is going to be the best place for you to be.
Yeah.
But then again, I would argue what town is. You just know where you're at. Have a head on a swivel. That's that kind of stuff. Kind of common sense stuff. It's always going to apply.
Yeah, and like this, those things to me, having grown up on Park Place, having lived on Salem, like I grew up on split between Park Place and Salem Avenue. They're still not great neighborhoods, but they were neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
Like no matter, like even when I was a kid, I had no issue with it because all the kids in the neighborhood, we went out, we played, we did all this stuff, and nobody shielded us from the fact that, hey, look, when it gets dark, just come inside. You don't need to go roaming. Like, let your mind not wander for a little bit because there could be problems.
Yeah.
But the same whole that what I call an excuse, that whole people are gonna kill you. It's like I've heard people say that in Ferdinand, Indiana, which is a town that is built around a monastery. And in central Indiana, there's nothing for miles, and the only reason that they say that is because it's built up. Yeah. And it's not even built up beyond 3 floors. The monastery, you can see it for 15, 20 miles. It's a beautiful place. But people still say that kind of stuff.
It's like sociology 101, man. Anytime you have a tribe, you have a group around somewhere, you're going to have deviance within it. You're going to have problems. You're going to have dust-ups. I mean, we're social animals. That's how we're built.
Yeah.
But we're also animals that realize that sometimes if we get too much in each other's space, we're going to have tension. That happens everywhere. I mean, I don't think it's urban. I don't think it's. I mean, it's everywhere. Urban, rural doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
You know, you in the old time movies, you know, where you say get off my land, and they start the battle of putting up their their fences for their cows. I mean, that it happens in everywhere. So I mean, I kind of look at community development as it's sort of like the show Iron Chef. You know, you come into a place, you don't know the secret ingredient yet. And so when you walk in, it's presented and you're like, all right, I'm still a great chef, so I'm going to figure out what the hell to do with this. And you make something magical from it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of cities are built this way. Like if everybody just takes a second to realize like, okay, let's see what we have in front of us. Let's maximize what that is. And then, we're going to have to trim the fat. We're going to have to get some stuff out of this. We're going to have to kind of fix and solve problems. I mean, name me a city that doesn't have a crime rate. I mean, there's no 0% crime rate place.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, I'm not sure I want to live in a city like that.
No.
I was a little too close to weird. You know?
I was gonna say I was actually watching Christian Bale's Equilibrium while I was making breakfast before you came. So like, no, I don't want to live in that. Like they revolted against that too.
That's right.
Look, we're gonna get mad about stuff we're gonna get weird about stuff all the time. It's innate. It's just you get a frequency that comes through, and you're like, all right, no, this isn't for me. That's fine.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It gets to be one of those things where it's like, if that's the only thing you've got stopping you, then you're the only thing stopping you.
Yeah.
And
that's right.
Like, and for example, like you said about the Iron Chef and the secret ingredient, like when you think of South Street in Philly, what do you think of?
Like a paisan, huh?
Well, like I think of it's mosaicing. Mosaicing came from Philadelphia.
Yep.
Well, you know what? The thing that actually popularized mosaicing in Philadelphia was the man that owns the Mosaic Garden on South Street. Right, big beautiful house. You've walked by it. I'm sure you walked by it 1,000 times on your way down the pier or anything like that. But you look at it, and it's all these archways, and he's got them mosaic, and they're beautiful. And sometimes he stands outside. He's a little old fellow. He looks like George Carlin, not George Carlin, but it looks like him.
Rest in peace, George Carlin.
I know. He'll stand outside, and you can go in and tour it. And you think about it, it's like, okay, well, almost 40 years ago, he and his wife bought the house when South Street was the slums. It was garbage, and he got bored one day and had a little bit of extra literal trash laying around. Glass bottles. Smashed them up, started putting them on the house. Let it grow. Like, that was the secret ingredient. And when you think of Philadelphia, you think mosaicing. And I think tramp art because of furniture making, but that's ridiculous and obscure. But, you think Philadelphia, mosaicing. Yeah, but that was started by a crazy guy who just had some free time. Like,
it usually happens that way, right? I mean,
yeah.
We've got complete and utter changes in societal stuff like music and art, all based around that one person saying, I'm not sure I dig this. I'm just going to try this. And I'm not asking you. I'm just telling you. I'm going to be over here doing this and see the punk rock movement.
Yeah.
Comes from that. Like, okay, we're drawn out solos and ridiculous stadium things, and I don't want to hear 27 minutes of the same damn song and a guitar solo. So I don't know how to play this, but we're going to get three guys who also don't know how to play this, and we'll don't play together 3 chords and let's see what happens. And before you know it, you got the Ramones. I think a lot of great stuff is happening that way, where you have people just saying, I'm not sure I do this, I'm not sure I know how to do this, but I'm sure I want to do this, so let me try it. And I think that's the secret sauce of a city like York, is that in the moment that you think we're down, that's the advantage that some cities don't have, right? We have the ability for people to come in and go, I'm going to give this a go. Right. I'm going to give it a shot, Like you had Dre on the other day.
Yeah, he's a sweet kid.
He's a badass dude. I really dig him, and I love his parents and everything they're about. But, I mean, what are we talking about? Fundamentally, we're talking about a salon, a haircut joint.
Yeah.
All right? And any other place, if you get lost in the malaise, right, it could just be, oh, yeah, someone wants to start a haircut salon.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's not DD's. That's 100% not what DD's is. It just so happens that they cut hair.
Yeah.
But it's the experience of the place.
Well, yeah, that's one of those things. Like, I'd love to have them on to run back through this, because we've been friends for a very long time, and it was like they started the old one, and it was just, John's first idea, apart from I'm gonna cut hair, that's cool, but was I'm gonna have a fridge full of beer so that people show up.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. It was like, okay, yeah, no, that works out perfect, and it built up a community. Like a lot of the regulars may remember the time that Devin's old band, who shall not be named, they played on Customer Appreciation Night or something, and we went to the old Bistro 19 and we tore that place apart. Like literally, at some point I pissed in the sink, so I'm sorry. Whoever used to own Bistro 19, at least you're gone now. But like, and it was just a bunch of people that were customers at Hair Shop, and we were together on an afternoon. At some point, 4 of us blacked out, I think, and like just woke up the next day, and it's like, well, what do you guys have in common? Oh, we all have really nice hair.
Right.
Yeah, like it just we're
raging, but we look fantastic. Yeah.
So, but okay. So I do want to go back. I do want to stem out on the punk rock thing.
Yeah, man.
Because I think the major issue that I think my vantage point is a little different. But like my grandma's lived at the 200 block of Arch Street, the very top of Arch Street, for 30 years now. Right? She's been a city resident otherwise. So she doesn't notice anything apart from like the time they tried to take her house for the ball field. No biggie. It all worked out. It was all good. They were going to buy her house and they were going to buy all Arch Street for it. Whatever. Anyway. So the other thought I had on the punk rock thing was, okay, so no matter how well produced the Ramones were, because their producer was a lunatic and a great guy, like they felt right. They felt right all the way through. But even though it was in the same vein, the Sex Pistols were developed to model a clothing line. Mm-hmm. And that's why I feel disdain towards the Sex Pistols, because or why I don't connect as well with the Sex Pistols, because that they were calculated and they were
manufactured.
Yeah. So how do you balance? Because the situation exists in every little city is like you do feel places you do go to places where half the city you feel like super authentic, everybody's trying to come together as a community, and then the other half it's like glossy magazine kind of stuff. Like how do you actively mitigate that feeling when you're doing community development?
It's a great question. I think because a lot of it has to do with it's being driven in so many different ways by different factions. You know what I mean? You have a city government that wants things to happen. Obviously, they want their city to thrive and survive, and then you have nonprofit sector and community development people in that way that want it to survive and thrive. And then you have the for-profit business community, because even though they may not talk this way, they need a good community because they have to hire the best and brightest. And so recruiting people, you can't, I'll just call it Dentsply just because the name, they're great. But they got to recruit
really
people.
Good.
You know what I mean? They got to recruit people here.
Yeah.
And so the hook is not just check out our building and where your cubicle will be. Yeah. The hook is like look at the Appel Center and check out our downtown and here's a wonderful places to eat and all these bars.
Yeah.
So it's in their best interest that a community thrives, right? So everybody has a reason for communities to grow, but from that, what you're getting at is there's a little bit of color by numbers. You have like, okay, we got to do these 3 things.
Yeah.
And there's the old adage in community development. Community development begins with pints and plates.
Yeah.
So it's bars and restaurants that really starts the thing happening. And it's not a cliche because it's fake. It's actually very true. Like you get a lot of restaurants and bars happening before you know what people are absorbing in.
Yeah.
And the reason you do that is it's like a lung. You want people to come in and then get experience, then go out and tell everybody about it. So you want to breathe in, breathe out kind of thing going on.
Right.
And that's the most logical thing to do. Art galleries are another one. The arts are in general big. Parks and Rec is another one. So you got all these things going on. I think where you can help with that, because I'm with you on this. Like if it's too much staged and too much looks like, oh great, we're going to be Lancaster Part 2.
Right.
Like, let's do their 10 things and that'll be great. I think where you can mix it up, and this is where the punk rock thing comes in. I think you have to have both permits and regulations, as well as a good driving economic and community development leadership that embraces new and weird. You know, you need the next John Waters to go, man, I want to park myself in York and go nuts, right? You want that. And you don't want to be like, oh, I don't know if that's going to fit well. Kind of riff-raff will show up. Like, if you start thinking that too deep into it, you're like, man, come on, let this guy go. Let him do something.
Right.
So.
Well, yeah, that gets to be, like, we're, at some point, it dulls to a feeling of forwardly thinking in the same wrong direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that, and that's I think that is totally possible. Where it's like, okay, well, if you took, if you openly looked at my download statistics, like they're fine. Like 2,000 downloads in 4 or 5 months since I've been doing this. I don't mind. It's great being, and you know why? It's because this is just for the sake of doing it. I like talking to people. I love meeting new people and having new doors open. Like I look forward to doing stuff with Kate and Matt.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
wonderful people.
Kate and Matt. What's up, Kate?
since I fell flat last weekend. But it's a personal bother. But it's like I do this, and you could look at my numbers, and you can be like, okay, well that's not profitable, and then you see something that does take off, like you take any of the literate, like especially in the podcast realm, like the literary podcasts, like oh well, this one's telling you a scary story, and it feels very Twin Peaksy, and they're getting a lot of traffic, and they're getting a lot of notice, and then all of a sudden I've got 9 of them in my feed. And they're all just as well produced, and they're all like just on the same vein. It's like, okay, well, we're forward thinking in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
It's like one works, that's cool. We don't need 40 of them. It's like, it gets to be that conundrum of like, I can go eat anywhere, but as this, like, I've been sober for 3 years. So what, like, what else can I do?
Right.
Well, for my birthday, I went to Clay Path and threw clay. Wonderful time.
There you go.
Seriously, and that was
Kirsten and Brooke, what's up?
Yeah,
hey.
That was my original gripe, and somebody pointed that out to me because he was a West Yorker and he bought a house downtown and then moved to Philly and kept the house downtown. But he and I had a long argument about that. And I was like, look, I don't drink. What am I gonna do? And I was like, why? Let's put in something that's not just food and alcohol. He's like, no, but it works. Just give it time. And so I'll see Max
that
at Halloween. But
that is a challenge, man. It's a challenge if you follow one particular segment of commerce or one particular type of thing like art or music or something. If you get too much into one thing and you just flat out, for no other reason other than I'm not into that, you just automatically feel like you're ostracized, like it's not for you.
Right.
And that's where the sort of second part I think of community development is big, and that's telling the story. So, social media has helped a lot with this because it binds people a little bit closer. But you could go, again, over the top on social media and say, well, we're posting it the hell out of social media, so you must know about it. And then it's like, wait a minute, some people actually don't follow social media the way that some of us do.
Yeah.
And so you can't necessarily dismiss the other ways to do it and guerrilla market it and, push it out amongst your friends and just telling the story. That's the thing you want. So that's why I'm a big fan of, I talk about this a lot for the nonprofit groups I work with. I believe we're in an area called the connection economy. I think this is where we're at now. So we've moved away from agrarian, industrial, and service, and I think we're in the next stage, which is connection economy. Our businesses, especially small businesses, startups, and what have you, they can't run every single facet of things. So they rely on, whether it's supply chain reasons or community reasons, they rely on people down the street, down the block, in the neighborhood to grow. So for Clay Path to be kick-ass great as it is, it needs York City Pretzel Company down the block because they'll draw eyes on each other and they'll move over and they'll see what's going on. You window shop, maybe you walk in, but before you know it, you're eating a pretzel while you're throwing clay. I mean, it could very well happen.
Yeah.
And you can share on advertising. You can share on special events like First Friday. You obviously are drawing people in. So the connection economy to me is just good business. It just makes good sense. So if you're a storefront owner in any city USA, you put up your shingle, open your doors, and you sit back, cross your arms, and say, "Well, they'll just show up."
Yeah,
I mean that's insane. Like there's no way you're going to do well. But if you get to know your neighbors and you start doing things together, before you know it, you identify yourself as a unique block or a unique neighborhood, a unique district, and you start sort of doing some group activities. But at the same time, you could do your own thing anytime you want.
Yeah,
I mean it just benefits everybody. Just the win is that. And then the story that goes out is that it's like, man, I don't know. I went down to get a burger and a beer, and all of a sudden I made a vase. I don't know what the hell happened, but I did that, And then I bought tickets at the Appel Center for next week or something.
Yeah, and then I went and played all the video games from my childhood. Like we do have
exactly.
Excuse me. With York, I mean my other thing is incredibly personal and to me because of where I grew up, which was 2 blocks from the one thing that York was infamous for. But, and I was going to say, I'm not going to put too sharp a point on it because everybody should know, I would think. But last year was the 47th anniversary of that event. of our riot.
Yeah.
And in the past 47 years, which obviously the first 4 I could see nobody saying anything about it because oh yeah, we were elected one of them mayor, but we haven't. That was the biggest thing was like we can look at that, we can look back at that event and say this is what's wrong with the world, or like my whole thought is, well, actually it was 48th anniversary, 2 years till the 50th. So anyway, my whole thing is like, okay, so we can take that event and we could be scared of it and be scared to talk of it because it does look bad on us. It looks ferociously bad on us. Or, why hasn't anyone said, okay, well, we still have that spot. There's still a hole in the wall. Why is there a hole in the wall? Why have we not painted? We have so many talented muralists that come through that did. You can go on a mural walk and see Bob Hoffman, all this beautiful art. Why do we not have a togetherness mural on that block somewhere? Why do we not? It's not a question of who was right in that situation. It's not a question of who was wrong. It was a question of, okay, this is a blemish on York, but York matters no matter what. And from the Maryland line all the way up, York matters, and the city matters from every different boundary, from my boundary a couple blocks down all the way to the east end, to the south, to the north. My thing is, like, we should memorialize it some way, but we should memorialize it by being a better community from it.
Yeah.
And it's like we had this. This is a total conversational hiccup. Sorry, but I have to get it off my chest because it does drive me crazy.
Yeah.
Is that nobody notices, and it's like what happened was terrible. What happened was wrong, and it was a definite dampener. But instead of doing anything about it then and doing anything about it in the 70s, 80s, 90s, the aughts, nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing, and we just kept moving as if we absolutely have moved forward as a community, but can we move forward 100% without acknowledging the fact that community matters most to this city, and community is the only thing that's going to keep this thing going?
Yeah.
It's like that's one thing that drives me crazy. Is like, look, we got to look back and we got to say, okay, I don't care. I'll pay out of pocket for a muralist to do. I'll go talk to the guy who owns the store. I don't care. I'll go stand there and have a vigil. I'm having a vigil there next year. Impromptu, in advance. But look, we have to admit the fact that some of us are wrong, and that sometimes history isn't always right, and it sucks. But we can come together and be right this time.
Yeah.
Like, when you get involved in the community sense of like going down and being part of downtown. Like, my wife's a social worker. My wife is part of this community in all the neighborhoods that nobody wants to walk through, and so it is that, like, I get to see it from both ends. Like, okay, well, what's the issue? Well, home ownership is down, and we need to increase home ownership. So next time we raise a warehouse, why don't we put in tiny houses with, with a better economic plan for the average person to actually be able to afford it and build up from there? And, it's like the entire, like, that is the one thing that drove me crazy in the beginning was like, okay, we focused really heavy on from the top of the market to the bottom. Yep. And that was it. And it was like, well, you see all the progress that we've made since then. Now the benefit of hindsight, looking back, is like, okay, those were really great decisions, but at the same time, I still feel like it did kind of zone out everything else that's going on, and it's like, okay, well, we keep saying community, and it's like, yeah, but what about everybody else?
Man? Yeah. We have a clouded sense of how to deal with some history and context and stuff like that. And I mean, look, well, I'll just say it. This is always in the room, right? The big ass elephant sitting in the corner always is race and socioeconomic issues, where you have the haves and have-nots, the monies and the want monies, and that's forever. It's always there. But I think you're right. I think too often what happens is we cloud what our past can do for us for our future. We cloud it in, well, I tell the story, and therefore, because I just told this, you can absolutely know that's why I don't do X, Y, and Z. And they don't say, well, wait a minute, if we embrace what happened, right, whether we're talking about a riot or it doesn't even matter what we're talking about. Whatever we embrace what comes to us and say, let's hit this head on.
Yeah.
Have a serious, come to Jesus conversation, to borrow a phrase, just like a serious, like, all right, what the hell, man? What's going on? Look, I lived in Washington, right?
Yeah.
So the U Street corridor is this amazing neighborhood, this gorgeous neighborhood. It's actually where Duke Ellington was born.
Oh wow.
And for a long time, it was called the Black Broadway, because back in the day when musicians had certain requirements, put on them, like we don't take you, we take your kind, that kind of nonsense.
Right.
They just started saying, F you, we'll start our own places. And so U Street became one of these amazing corridors where you had this amazing amount of jazz and stuff going on. Well, back in the riots in the 60s, U Street was basically burnt to the ground. I mean, National Guard was in. It was all this stuff. There's these iconic. Anytime people talk about the major amounts of riots in the '60s, DC is always looked at very much like Detroit. What happened during that? And there's this iconic photo of 3 National Guard guys holding up their guns, moving cars, and there's just buildings burnt out all around it.
Right.
One building was saved, and the community protected this thing. And it's this famous hot dog joint. It's just amazing that like everybody embraced this. But the moment they did that, then what happened was amazing. The community got back together and they said, all right, you can argue if you think rioting and public displays like that are strategically make sense, or they're exactly what the rights allow you to do, or it's the only way you can gain attention. You can go either way in the argument. But what they immediately did afterwards is they said, and now we build together. And they built this back up where now the U Street corridor is again this amazing part of the community of Washington, and not the Beltway, not the capital that people think of when they think of Washington. This is neighbors. People live here. They work here. It's good soul food. It's great jazz joints, all that kind of stuff. And it just turned into this amazing thing. But all of that is embraced within their history. So when you go there and you do the tour of the U Street corridor, they tell you they don't even screw around with it. They're like, this place burned to the ground.
Yeah.
And then we all got together and figured out, now what? And we figured out a way to grow it, and they just embraced their history. And again, you can be positive or negative on what that even means for you, but you just you recognize it. You realize what it is. And now it's almost like secret coding. It's like you have people talking around like, I don't go downtown because of the race, the race riots.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, wait a minute, man. We're talking this was decades ago.
Yeah.
Like, let's figure out a way to move forward on this. But we don't sweep it under the rug and forget it.
Yeah.
Like, embrace what's going on. I mean, LGBTQ questions came the same kind of way. Like, for years, we just sort of pushed it aside and called it something it wasn't.
Right.
Until we finally said, enough. And then Stonewall said, boom, forget it. We're not enough. We're not talking anymore like that. We're going to show some action. And I just think I embrace people that I like that idea of get action. I actually I have it on my website for my consulting stuff. Like, it's one of my big things is Teddy Roosevelt said that. He said, get action, be involved, get moving. And he was talking about physical fitness, but he was talking about mental fitness. He was talking about community. Like, it's not enough to sit in the sidelines and say, woulda, coulda, shoulda, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Get out there and do something. And if that means, from a community standpoint, it doesn't mean you have to be the head of a committee or running a nonprofit or dropping everything and becoming the number one, I'm the sweet cleaner of the year. You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
You can simply be in the conversation, be a part of it, but don't troll it.
Yeah, that's the other thing is it's almost it becomes that kind of we all go see the Saw movies because of the fact it's horror porn. You want to feel icky, you want to feel gross, and you want to do that. And it's like when you do that, when you go just to create hurdles, it's like, all right, you know that you don't belong, and it's like, well, okay, you do, but the problem is you think that you don't belong, but you do. And the only reason you're throwing hurdles up is just to misdirect and be you're David Copperfield, and it's like you're trying to make sure that nobody's making progress because you don't feel like you're making progress. But guess what? If you sit down and think, okay, what am I doing? You're making progress. That's it. Like, if you sit down and the consideration that I gave it, as of recently, I've been reading a lot into to Jung and a lot of psychotherapy because I've been dealing through all that stuff. But in my 20s, I was talking to somebody yesterday about this. It's like, okay, well, I read into Jung early, and I was like, he said you must embrace the shadow. Well, we do need to embrace the shadow to become a whole person again.
That's right.
Because once the shadow is loved, anything that's loved is beautiful. So, that's the thing. We can become whole people, and by being whole people in a group of whole people, the world can shine and explode in joy and happiness. Right. And it's like, the thing that enamors me most right now about York, the thing that I'm absolutely in love with is yesterday. My wife's grandma was on the board of the agriculture, or not the historical society.
Mm-hmm.
So she had her reception held for her funeral at the museum down next to the old Baker building, and so we got to walk the museum, and you know, when you look back at the old penciled maps, and you look back at the old the old lithographs of what York was, it was like 8 blocks, and there was a milliner and 40 churches, and now, like, especially for me, which this brings me the most happiness. Like, now you look at it and you're like, look at all these places I can go and do a thing and worship at my church, because my church is my church is people. My religion is people.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, if somebody would do a map now, it's like, okay, well, you got Devin and John's, you got the antique shop next door, you got 4 galleries lined up, you got the tattoo shop, you got all this kind of stuff, and it's like, everyone that you walk into, somebody's gonna say hello, and they're gonna instigate a conversation with you.
Yep.
Which is always a beautiful thing.
Yep.
And I feel like sociologically we've gone from these we've kind of grown disdainful for the giant masses and the giant church, the mega church. Nobody cares for it because it's not personal.
Right. Yeah.
And you can take the community, you can take any aspect of York, go in and get a coffee at Ironic, and sit at the counter for 15 minutes and tell me that you sat there for, tell me you sat in dead silence.
Mm-hmm.
Just tell me that you were the only one in the building.
Yeah. That's the thing about activation. Once it hits you, like once you're in something,
yeah,
and you realize what it is, just human nature. You're going to walk out of there thinking differently, and if you would just challenge yourself to say, let me bring that story back to one other person. I had this. I was doing this thing for a nonprofit. We were talking about social media, and we're talking about like risk management within social media. So the question was something like, well, if you have an event and somebody writes on your board, like, this event sucked, it wasn't good, it didn't embrace something I wanted, like, what do you do with it? Do you ignore it? Do you delete it? Do you spot it and stuff? Mm-hmm. And I would say the big rule for me is 1-to-1. Is I would say if you have a complaint or an issue about what's going on in your community, voice it. You absolutely should voice it.
Yeah.
But I challenge you then to have one possible solution or idea to come with it. Yeah. And just be 1-for-1. So, because that takes the troll out of it, right? Because I can easily now dismiss you in this current worldview. Yeah. Right. We have a term for it. Trolls. Right. This sucks. You can be like troll and just forget it. Yeah. But that person might have a big point. He might have something very important. So like what you just did when you were talking about, well, this is something that I think we need to embrace and talk about. Well, you already have a solution. You're already talking about a mural. You're already 3 steps into it. Not only do you have an idea, you're like, I'll find a place, I'll find a guy, we'll put it together, we'll have a ceremony. Like, you're starting down the road exactly what you want. You're activating on something. I think everybody and everybody should feel empowered to do this. Like, this is not, this is not just because you're an elected official or you're the head of the whatever. This is your community too, man. This is your block, your street, your house. Come with something, even if it's something that doesn't necessarily translate into a full-blown initiative or an event or something. The idea that everybody gets in the pot and stirs. Yeah. And again, that's a punk rock thing. Stir the pot usually is like a negative connotation. Like, screw those guys. We'll just mess it up. And I'm like, no, man, this is like gumbo. Like, we have to stir. Like, that's what makes it good. Like, it keeps moving. Like, the churning of it is what is the thing that's good. Yeah. So more people doing it, I say more the merrier.
Well, no, absolutely. And it's like, that's the other thing is that, like, never feel excluded. And I think most people, especially, like, I'm 32, so most people my age or younger that maybe, like 22, 23, sharing an apartment downtown, just to get stable, do your thing, that's cool. But, like, I think the outside look is like, okay, well, if I want to get involved, I'm going to have to be there every night, and I'm going to have to spend all this money. It's like, no, just come down once. Mm-mm. Like,
you doing this, man.
Yeah.
You doing a podcast is a great example of this, right? And you're taking your voice and you're amplifying it. Mm-hmm. And someone could stop right there and just say, okay, he's making his voice louder. Yeah. But that's not that's not exactly what this is.
Yeah.
I mean, it just happens it does that, but it's more to that. It's building conversation points, and that's
like
that.
I love having this place here and knowing that like Monster Mania was the first time I ever did a live event, which is why the first minute and a half are a little goofy. Sorry. It's the first time I've ever dealt with this outside, and I'm walking around with a recorder in my hoodie and 2 mics around my neck, and I'm talking to strangers. Like I'm a socially anxious butterfly. I have a problem with initiating conversation with people in the moment. It's rough, and so I forced myself into doing it, and I thought, okay, this is great. Well, now I have this place to, this is my library, this is my home, this is my this is my little safe place in the world. No matter how wide my shoulders get, guess what? Safe space matters.
Mm-hmm.
So I have this place, and it's like I can bring people here, and then the thing I want to do from here is whatever, because from here it goes further, and now I know that. Look, I can hop on my motorcycle and go wherever I want, run downtown, do whatever I need to do. Just throw my mics in that case there that fits on my backpack. Fits on my backpack. All my stuff fits in it. All right, let's go record somewhere weird. Let's go record live events. Like I'll go walk through the. Let's do the Underground Railroad stuff. Let's do the Ghost of York thing. I'll do it live. I don't.
Yeah.
It's like. It seems like it exponentially adds on to my constantly growing plate of stuff to do, but reasonably it doesn't take any time.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna go do anything anyway, I may as well just take my recording equipment.
Well, we did the same thing. So my buddy Adam McAllister and I, what's up, Adam Mac? We started a podcast. The exact same thing. The exact same way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
When I first got up here, I was like, I would love to do this, and I just never did it.
You're right.
And then after a while, when Adam McAllister and I started talking a bit, and he had that same sensibility, and I said, well, why the hell aren't we doing it? I mean, I don't get it. I mean, I don't know. There's no reason not to. Let's just do it. So we started ours, which is called What the York. And we actually, we do it. It's kind of supposed to be only a half hour. It goes a little longer than that. But, we just pick somebody here, York City or out in York County, and we just have a little A block where we talk about some local news, and then the B block is an interview, and the C block is we just do like a op-ed. One of us takes it and just says, all right, just give your opinion. And we have so much freaking fun doing it, dude. We just embrace the lunacy of it. Like, honest to God, this is so silly. We just did our 21st and 22nd episodes. For our 21st episode, we just got rid of the rundown. All we did was we drank scotch for a half hour with a buddy and just talked through the whole thing. And I don't even know. I mean, it went up recently, and I'm like, God, I hope the ending makes sense.
I was gonna say, as long as you weren't spending a half hour just hammering down Cutty Sark, we're okay. Because that was I got into scotch for whatever reason, and I fell in love, and I lost a lot of money over it. So
yeah.
But no, that's the thing. It's like what I'd like to see is more this thing started as that old thing. Don't read the name on the back of the vest, but. I started another podcast. I was obsessed with music. I was obsessed with being part of the scene, and all my friends were in it. And so, I'd take my equipment to my old recorder. I'd take it with me, record bands that were coming through touring, do all that stuff. It was great. It was super fun. It was hard to keep up with, and it was hard to pay for it because I was paying for equipment and then paying to get in, and it was just a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So it's like what I want to see is everybody else that does it. You guys, Strange Familiars, Are You Morbid? Sorry, Zach. I was gonna say I talk to Zach regularly on the phone. But Are You Morbid? Like, you can pick up on anything that you want to do and just do it.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't. It does become like, to me, that's what maturity was. It was like every creative idea. I've always been an impulsive, crazy, high energy, creative. It's like. And I always have these thoughts. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to do this. And I pick it up and I write the first page. And then after that, I just abandon it. And that's why I have so many notebooks in here. But that was maturity for me. Was, okay, I finished my first book, finished my second book, finished some poetry. All right, what can I do next? Well, I wanted to start a podcast. I did. I got tripped up. Said, forget it. I decompressed from everything that was going on, came back to it. What do I want to do? Well, I want to start another podcast. About what? I don't know. I just want to talk to people. So let's do it. And it's just when you it doesn't have it. That's what I want people to see is it doesn't have to be about anything. It doesn't like seriously. If you, I have books about being an anarchist mother. You know why? Because it's interesting.
Yeah.
If you want to start a podcast about being a regular mom, do it. I'll probably listen more than likely because I think as an adult without children who wants them desperately, I think it's interesting. I'm gonna listen. Like you can do it about anything, and it's not like it. I think this conversation is all about getting over that hurdle of what you think, the perceived cost, or perceived problems, or perceived hurdles. It's like realistically, there's not. The only, we're sitting here and my table's covered in equipment because I was dicking around with my old amp. But that soundboard came from the Saturday's Market. It cost me $5. It works. I'm pretty stoked about it. Like, yeah, my Zoom recorder, I'm an obsessive gear guy. I had to have the big one, so I got the big one. That's the most expensive thing here, You can do anything with anything, but the thing is that you need to take the first step and you need to grow from there.
Right.
You can record on a phone. You can record on your iPhone. Sit in a small room. It's super high quality. Like record it on your iPhone, and then from there, wait a little bit, get a little better, and just try.
People stumble when they think, do I have enough money? Do I have enough time? Do I have enough influence? Is anyone going to matter? Is anyone going to hear this? And all those things. That's paralysis by analysis. You start worrying about stuff that literally you can't control. I mean, if you want to hire a PR and marketing firm and build out your brand and do all that stuff, have at it, man. Go at it. Or why don't you just start it and tell your buddies and just say, hey, this is what I'm thinking of doing. There's a guy, he's the terrible cliche here. He's sort of a thought leader guy. His name is Simon Sinek. I dig him. I'm totally into him. Is find your why. Like, know your why is like the most important thing. Well, that's inside out. That has nothing to do with outside exterior stuff. Like, why is your being? That's your we to I believe. You sort of embrace your why, figure out what that is, and then you can deploy on it. Like, this so happens to be the deployment within a podcast, but you could do that as a writer. You could do that as go to the York Daily Record and say, I want to contribute a column.
Yeah.
What's the worst they're going to say is no. Okay. Yeah. Well, then you write it yourself and put it out on social media and Medium.
Yeah.
Like, why not? I mean, who's telling you no? The only person that says no at the beginning is you. You cause the no.
Right.
And I love folks that just say, I'm not even sure where the hell this is going, but I'm going to go. Because that first step to me makes all the sense in the world. And I love that. I love that you just kind of put it up there, hit play, and let's go. Let's just do it. And you know what? Sometimes things work out and sometimes don't, but the judgment on these things, I think we worry too much about there's going to be this heavy judgment against us. And some of the best ideas and the things that are happening, not just in community development, but just in anything, come out of the damnedest of weird things,
Yeah.
And I love that, like CBGB. I mean, we get back to the punk rock thing, right? I mean, This guy wanted to start a bluegrass bar.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the word CBGB is bluegrass.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the last thing they did because they finally realized, like, nobody in the Bowery gives a shit about country music or bluegrass. Yeah. And all these guys are coming and going, can we play? And he said, okay, the only rule I want is no covers.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want, but just no covers. All right. Before you know it, it becomes iconic. Well, it's iconic the moment it closed years later because we look back at it as like, what a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
But that was not even close to the idea he wanted. You know what I mean? It wasn't even near it, which I think is awesome. I think I just do it. Just get out there and do it.
I think from another creative standpoint, like a lot of people have that hurdle of like, well, or they have that what I consider a falsehood of like, well, nobody gets appreciated till they're dead, and it's like, okay, well, this. Look, I've had some weird episodes, and I've had some like really awkward conversations with people I don't know that well on air. It's cool. It happens. I'm fine with it.
So you're a guy, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Like, or like I have I have the issue of stemming on certain things in my personal life that I try to drag everybody else into. And sorry for the dinosaurs, but it gets to be that thing. It's like, well, nobody appreciates your work till you're dead, and it's like, well, yeah, but that doesn't mean that you get to sit here and complain consistently about the bad work that you're putting out and giving yourself the excuse of this is why it's not taking off. Well, look, after a lot of very, very in-depth study with marketing and like modern marketing with last year, because I was obsessed with the numbers and getting the interaction up and doing all this, I dug so deep into it. And all I found was the only reason that things work is just because they do. Like, there is no specific answer to how to get yourself where you need to be apart from just go. That's all. And you know, it just gets to be that where like, my biggest fans are my best friends in the entire world. Like,
Yeah.
I talk to Katie Force about it every day. I haven't brought her up in a couple episodes, but I talk to Katie Force about the podcast every day. She's wonderful. She is one of my best friends. She's what I'm doing it for. I do this for the sake of myself. It's
Yeah.
like I'm happy with that.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, man. I think folks who worry that if they think that way, that's too much inside, too much about me. They're missing the point. The whole idea of this is an expression of you.
Yeah.
And this is you getting that expression out in anything, whatever the medium is. It almost doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just getting that thing out. And getting back to York, this is the kind of thing that I look at the glass as half full and about ready to pour some more in.
Yeah.
Because I see that in what's going on.
Oh, absolutely.
I can see that in straight up commerce and business. And you could take it to the biggest level. You can say like, I wonder how Harley's thinking about what's going on in New York. You do that, but I bring it down to the street level, and I just say like, there's too many people out there that are really thinking about what kind of business I want to bring in, how to embrace the businesses that are there and work with them.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many people you can come by and you realize like their interactivity now has shifted. They're changing about stuff. They're saying, well, instead of just ordering online somewhere out in the middle of whereverville, I'm going to go up the street because I can get that product here and buy it locally.
Yeah.
And it's not because some banner says buy local.
Right.
It's because I know Joe. I know the guy, and I want to go and just give him the money because eventually I'm going to buy him a beer and he's going to buy me one 2 weeks later. So we're just basically trading this dollar for now. It's going to come back to me anyway.
Yeah.
I love that. I love when people start seeing this. It's not forced on them because this is a set event, so everybody embrace each other and be happy because the photo's coming.
Yeah.
Now it's like, no, this is just good business. It's just good for all of us to hang out and work with each other and support one another.
And I was gonna say, and that helps a lot. Like people always want. We've had a look. Just to bring up a very ridiculous subject, but we've always had the train shop downtown. So I was talking to my wife the other day, and I was like, hey, we should get the Lionel Polar Express. I've always been a fan of it. I said we should get one of those and put it under the tree because holidays aren't big for me. Whatever, I'm trying to get involved. And I was like, oh, we should get a Polar Express. And my wife said, oh, well, just see how much it is on Amazon. And I was like, you know what? I'll just go down because B&O Junction always he stocks them every year. And I was like, you know what? If it's an extra $20, I don't care. I'm happy for him to be happy. And I actually really like. He's terrible political views, but he's a wonderful human being. But no, he's a really great guy, and I'm actually going down. And I was like, you know what? I'll just make an episode of it. So call him in advance, say, hey, I'm picking up my Polar Express, and I'll bring my stuff down, and we'll walk around the shop and talk a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like, and people wonder how, how these small shops, like very specific hobby shops, for example, stay open. Is because, yeah, you're right. The ability to go get it. Like the ability, White Rose Hobbies was on Mount Rose. It's they're moving out to the old Megatronics. The ability for me to just take a 5-minute drive and get an RC car or a full train set or a very specific box car I need, that's so much more fun than me going to Amazon and picking it up or wherever and picking it up, because there is that aspect. Like I know the guy that runs White Rose. Sweet kid. He's trying real hard. He's very talented with electronics. Incredibly cool kid. He does the model railroad, the club that we still have downtown, the MRCCY, I don't know, or whatever it is. Anyway, they've been in business. They've been open as a club for over 50 years, I think, at this point. But that was the thing that you do for Christmas. Yeah. Because it's off of, It's in that spot where it's in that area where Danskin used to be. It's between Mount Rose and Princess in one of those streets, but it's a dead end, it's a dead end, so you can't get off. It gets over Mount Rose. I can't remember what it is, but you walk in there and that was the Christmas thing to do. Right. Old habits. Like the Christmas thing to do was you jumped in the van, you go out to the Mile Railroad Club, you get excited about it, and then you go out for Christmas dinner because it's the first time that you've had especially in my situation, it's the first time you had the ability to go out for dinner a couple of months. You all go to dinner, and then you go downtown and you walk the streets and you look at the lights, and then you go home. Yeah. It's just that kind of, it does seem ridiculous when we could Like I can climb Everest from my couch
Right.
on TV.
Yeah.
Like 3D, I can do it right there.
Yep.
But the ability to go down and do that, the importance of stuff like that. You know, we used to I was gonna say you've been up here for 5 years. Like you wouldn't remember they used to run New Year's Eve. They would get the tram cars, the old. We used to have trams like San Francisco, or the trolleys, and they used to on New Year's Eve they'd drag one out of the old Orange Car building, and they'd drag it down the rails, and it would be on that street that's not Beaver, Pershing. They would drag it up and down Pershing, and you could just ride on it.
Yeah.
And it was super fun, and it was super silly, and it was great. And that was before all the dumb stuff happened. It's like it's campy, it's silly, it's nostalgic, but
that's right.
It's the kind of fun that I think people value it more because we have had the digital revolution, and people are so entrenched in it. They're like, okay, well, you know what? I want to take a picture, and I want to hold it in my hand.
Yeah. Well, that's the secret sauce of this. No matter how great our tech becomes, and our tech is amazing, and it's helped us in amazing different ways. You can embrace all that, but us human beings, we're very nostalgic, touchy-feely. We're very we're social animals, so we want to interact. We want to be with each other. And to me, all that all that talks about is experience. So your whole idea is when you have a community or have an area, you're not just doing it for commerce sake. Like you said, you could get the train set and never leave this room.
Yeah.
I mean, literally never leave the room. You can get every information you want. You could purchase it. You can wait for it. It'll come right to the door. Good to go. Or you could take what you might feel is harder steps, but I would argue is better steps, just to make your way down to this community, to a local shop that's been there forever, who you can have an interaction with a person, purchase the stuff, learn something more by the person's conversation, whether it's about the commerce or the product or service you're talking about, or just him or you. And before you know it, when you're putting this thing up, years from now, when somebody comes over your house for the holiday season and they go, oh shit, man, that's a really cool train set, you're not just going to say, yeah, bought it on Amazon.
Yeah.
Full stop, no story. Or go, yeah, man, let me tell you about this story about this dude who's downtown. He's got this crazy-ass old shop. It's been here forever.
Yeah.
I go in there, and we talked about 19 other things, and oh, by the way, yeah, I bought this train. I mean, that's the part of it that I embrace the most, the idea that you can experience stuff that have nothing to do with the basics of what it is. You mentioned ironic before.
Yeah.
It's like the perfect place for that. Like, even their own work, like when they came here, what they thought ironic was going to be is not what it is now. And they just realized, like, well, here's the current. I mean, here's what's pushing and pulling on us. So we embrace what's going on. But the one thing they knew right from the very beginning they wanted to be is they wanted to be kind of like a lighthouse. They wanted to have people be attracted into it, realize it's a safe place that you can talk, you can hang out. There's no harm, no foul. They're not going to say, if you don't buy something, get the hell out of here. They want people in there in almost like a community center aspect of it. And they love that part. Well, the community is embracing them right back. They realize, like, that's a great spot. It's a really fun spot to meet, to talk to people. And, oh, by the way, yeah, I can get a coffee. I can get a smoothie or whatever the hell you're going to get over there. And that's badass. I mean, that's why David and Steven are flourishing.
Yeah.
Because they realize, like, let's just try it. And they're always looking for the next thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They're like, what's next? What else do we need?
Yeah. I was going to say I'd met them through I forget who I met them through, but it was a while back, and that was before they opened the coffee shop. And we'd go over there, and I'd pick up a postcard, do whatever, walk around their shop, and they were just two of the sweetest human beings who just wanted to be there and talk to them. They opened the coffee shop and everything. They started doing Creek Fire. They started doing everything like on whatever it is, Saturday or Sunday afternoon, you can go in there for intellectual debate upstairs from 1 to 3. Like, that's awesome. That's that's exactly what it should be. And they just did. They partnered with LifePath for the ice cream shop across the street.
That's right. And, Cornerstone.
And it's like there's that thing that I feel like between the both of them, between both of those shops, they destroy every stereotypical thought of like, oh, well, it's going to be this ministry and it's all about this, and this. It's like, well, when you see what LifePath does, they really do grace. They really do they do take the money that's given for the sake of charity, and they really do put it to good use. And they do everything that they can because most of my books come from their sales. Yeah, except for anything that I needed very specifically down, like my good books downstairs. Most of them come from the Life Path book sale twice a year because I get to go throw, 40, $50 away on another few hundred books, and
it's a nice library.
It's a nice library. It's my favorite place in the entire world. But and this isn't all my books. But yeah, that's like it gets okay. Well, where's my $50 go? Well, it goes down to the mission to make sure that to make sure that somebody's in trouble can have a place to put their head tonight and try. And I had a friend who ended up walking that path late in life, and he had to go through them. Right. And it was like, well, it was there. The resource was there. And what did it take?
Yeah,
nothing.
See,
it took me buying books.
See, this is my wheelhouse, man, because you're talking now about nonprofit groups, and I'm really digging on this. So, the thing about nonprofits that are really fun is that they're one of those things that if you don't think you need them, you could dismiss it and say, well, that's for folks that I have nothing to do with. Or you could realize, like, they are the change agents that really make things hum, whether or not you're using their services. Like, think about this, like what Life Path and groups like that in the human services section of the nonprofit sector, what they do is they're taking men and women in tough situations and reframing it so that their potential could be shown again. Just reminding them their potential has always been there. That's why a lot of times workforce development, like the Cornerstone thing, that's exactly what that's trying to do. That's saying we're not just doing it for commerce sake. Yeah. We're doing it because this is a tool that will be able to help us bring these men and women outside of the literal outside, bring them into an inside protected place, and get them skills and necessary life development that they can, as the name suggests, find their path and kind of move forward down the line. It's embracing what they do and saying, here's a way that we can manifest it so that everybody wins. The community wins because we got an ice cream shop. That's kind of fun. But the men and women are the key to that. They're the ones that are coming through the Life Path program and are getting necessary skills. The place is raising some money that then therefore helps the programs that they do. I mean, it's a win-win. We call it in the sector, it's called retail philanthropy. It's this idea. It's like Tom's shoes. I was going to buy shoes anyway, so let me get a pair of Tom's shoes, and someone else gets a pair. Yeah. I mean, why not, right? Yeah. And sometimes that stuff gets, I don't want to get on a soapbox here, but sometimes that stuff gets a little perversed out in the bigger sector, where everything is pink, pink blender, pink this. And, it's like, okay, well, they're going to an nth degree on this, but the principle still maintains, if I was going to buy this anyway, I might as well buy it for something that is helping a cause. Right. That's actually embracing something that I believe, and that goes back to the whys. I align myself with groups that I believe and that their beliefs and my beliefs are in alignment. And I kind of dig on that stuff. I like when that sort of thing happens. Yeah. Sorry, I got creeped out. I thought I heard footsteps. Which is weird. The bad guys are coming in. Yeah, we're alone here. But no, I mean, I agree. I definitely agree. And like, I think I'm sure when my wife listens to this, the Tom Shoes thing is really cool. And I made fun of her the other day for it because I was like, do you want them? I was like, do you want them because you want to give back, or do you want them because you want to look like you donated money or did something good? Like it does become its own status. Yeah, it becomes its own status novelty. It's like, yeah, I get it. You're super, like, you're miserable and you're super broke and you're coming to a show and you're bumming cigarettes, but you're wearing Tom's shoes because you're such a philanthropist. I get it. I get what you're after. But I used to say that about Girl Scout cookies. Yeah. Like, do you just like the peanut butter cookies are crazy good. That's my favorite ones. Oh yeah, the oh my god. Tagalongs? Yeah. Damn it! Why did we bring this up? I haven't had flour or sugar or anything like that for 3 years. So oh my god. Yeah. How are you standing upright? I get those urges. No. Here I am drinking battery acid over here. No. My Diet Coke. Believe it or not, that's my one cheat because my favorite, the thing I wax nostalgic for most in life, like I don't have comic books or anything like that anymore, is going to the movies. And I go to the movies with my wife, and I eat popcorn, and I drink Diet Coke, and it's just my favorite thing. And like, you gotta have that thing. Like everybody, yeah, man, absolutely. That's one misconception. People are like, oh, if I go on a diet, I have to limit myself from everything all the time. It's like, no. You can just you just definitely have to limit yourself. You don't want to cut yourself off from anything. That's right. You can make it. That's right. Hey, can I turn the tide on this podcast and interview you? No. I got some questions. No, go ahead. I got some questions. Yeah. I want to know, how long does it take for you to the years? How does it take to get these they're not called studs. What the hell are they called? My gauges, my gauges, tunnels, yeah. How long does it take because you got to go through cycle after cycle after cycle, right? When they get bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Well, actually, like, yeah, you see the bottom of them have a lot of meat to them.
Yeah.
Well, you do have to, you size it, like, you put something in, and if it's metal jewelry, it's going to sag a little bit. So you move up to the next size, and it's going to sag a little further. You keep doing that, and then at some point, take them out altogether, because the cellulose that's in your ear lobe needs to grow back. When you see people that have like, they say, oh, well, I had to shave my ear because I had a blowout, it's because they didn't take the process in a patient manner.
Yeah.
And like, these are 1 5/8 inch, and the reason that I can grab on them and hang on them is because I took the effort. Like, this is 9 years in the making.
Okay, 9 years. Yeah, all right.
You know, I've had
Holy Hannah.
I started the wrong way, but I got back on the right path. And like, yeah, because a friend of mine who pierces up in New York now was like, dude, you gotta slow down. If you keep stretching, they're gonna thin out, and you're gonna pull your lobes right off.
Yeah.
He's like, and I was like, okay, well,
dude, that's badass. But I just always wondered about the timing.
It's
how long it takes to get to that level.
It sometimes it can take as long as it needs, and like, yeah, you see. Yeah, not to make this stereotypical statement, but you see the tribes that have, you know, the lip plates and the giant ones, like, yeah, they do it, and they do have a safe method to do it, because with that much weight hanging off your lobe, it would just rip out.
Yeah.
So it takes 9.5 pounds to rip a man's ear off.
Holy
so,
wow.
But when you see somebody with somebody around here has 2 or 2.5 inch rings that are way bigger than mine. They're terrifying.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, same thing. He's just been doing it for a super long time.
So patience.
Yeah,
patience.
Patience is key. Patience is the winner lately.
Yeah.
I think, like, and that's my other thing is, like, yeah, when I was impulsive and angsty and all that, like, I wanted everything done immediately. It's like, you look at it and no, that's not how it works. These things do not, like, especially with downtown and all these new businesses and stuff. It's like, yeah, this stuff doesn't pop up overnight. And
no.
People plan. Like, I knew somebody that opened a pizza shop up in Dover, and I was like, you know, I said, look, I'm not super into accounting. I just want to understand what you went through to open this. What did you plan for? And he's like, I planned for 5 straight years of failure before I have a comfortable enough customer base to actually be profitable. He said, so I took all that money and I put it away.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting and hoping it takes off before that. And I was like,
that's smart biz, man.
It just, oh, okay. Well, that's why. And you see, like, yeah, everybody gets that thing, like that child, that almost churlish thing where you're like, oh, well, this is the greatest idea ever. As soon as it's open, the doors are going to blow open and everybody's going to come in and buy all my stock and they're going to love it. It's like, no, you didn't plan enough, man. You got to give them time.
You got to have a runway. You got to realize, like, it's going to take a while for your idea to churn to positive or negative. I mean, people don't walk in day one and go, this sucks, and leaves. Yeah. And they also don't come in and go, I'm going to live here forever. And then neither one of those things happen. It takes a lot, and a lot of local businesses, small businesses, this is their problem. And I've talked to groups like this all the time. When you ask about their runway, you have to say to yourself, are you prepared for nothing to happen for a good long while?
Yeah.
And if you're not, if you're just saying, like, no, I'm hanging on the margins on this, you're going to be out after the first couple of months, because your rent's going to be due, your electric's going to be due, all this stuff that's static that's going to happen.
Yeah.
If you're not bringing any positive profit in,
yeah,
then you're just burning your death by 1,000 cuts. You're not even going to realize you're going to come back and be like, holy shit, I have no money, and now I have this empty pizza joint or whatever, and you're thinking, what the hell happened? Everybody likes pizza. It's like, well, yeah, that's the thing. Everybody likes pizza, and they go to many places, so you have to realize it takes a while to build your tribe up. You know,
I was gonna say, and like, you know, when you find it, you need to give yourself the ability to put the foot out and make the step, and then you got to figure out from there what your niche is.
Yeah.
You know, because no matter what is, like, even after today, this is 4 months in, 5 months in, I still have no idea where I'm going with this. Yeah. I don't know, and I don't think I want to go in it. The biggest thing is, like, I'm more fascinated by everybody else than I am by myself. Like, the stuff I do on my own, like, believe me, I have a good enough self-image that I'm comfortable with me, but I love to dig into people's lives, and, you know, people may say average or, you know, everyday people. There's no such thing. When you really dig, there is no such thing as everyday people. You know, it's just, and I like to explore that thought. And
Yeah.
there's so much to do.
There's amazing stories out there. You just gotta
Yeah.
ask. You just gotta take the time to find them.
Yeah, and
That's all it is.
Just take a little bit.
That's why a lot of people, like people like the introverted kind of types. Obviously I'm a very extrovert.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're very boisterous. I like it.
No problem. But my wife is you could tell she's a little more introverted. So it's kind of funny when we're sort of like peanut butter and jelly. Like we have very different, facades, personalities. But what's really neat, complimentary about it, is that she is like the greatest listener on the planet. She just gets the whole idea of like absorbing, understanding what's going on, and really, if you think about it, that's the kind of thing that we should aim for when we talk about our community work and what we're trying to do with our communities. Whether you're an activist or you're just a shop owner or you're just a dude down the street, like the thing we miss all the time, we talk around and through people. We don't talk and absorb, you know. And again, it's natural for us to do, right? R's versus D's, rural versus urban. Like we put ourselves in these, even the race question.
Yeah.
It's like we put ourselves in these boxes, and then we echo chamber with ourselves, and then we just kind of like cast things out. We're not asking for anybody to interact and embrace it.
Right.
And then maybe it becomes a tennis match where that person hears it and then says, "Oh yeah," and they say something back to us, and we say, "Oh yeah," and then we're just doing this, and nothing really is absorbing. Nothing's really going to like. And but by the way, I don't want to be overly PC here. Like I don't think we all have to embrace everybody's opinion and change it 7,000 times.
Yeah.
I'm not about that. I mean, I could be apparently against what you're about, and we can still have a rational conversation.
No, absolutely.
That is possible. I mean, humanism. That's what I'm looking for, humanism around here.
That's the biggest motivator for me is like, I like having people on that are just people because I don't want to segregate myself from anybody for the sake of creating my own little safe echo chamber because I thrive on anxiety. I thrive on uncomfortable situations. I like, if you sit me in front of somebody and they're whatever doing their opinion and it's ridiculous, like that's fine with me. I'm gonna sit here and pick you apart, but that makes me it makes me happy to have full depthy conversations with people, especially when we disagree. Which is like, it's like we don't have to agree. If everybody agreed on everything, nothing would matter.
Yeah. That's one of those freaky communities again. Like I don't want to live there.
Yeah. It's like Ayn Rand said, if everybody's special, then nobody's special. Yeah. And she's one of my favorite writers, which doesn't make any sense. But it just gets to be that thing. It's like if you create your own tribe of people that are just gonna mirror exactly what you say, and they're gonna hoot when you hoot. Like, you guys aren't going to survive. You're not going to find a good tree.
There's a woman. She's fantastic. She's out in Chicago now, but when I knew her, she was in Denver. Her name is Erica Napolitano. What's up, Erica? She's awesome. She did a TED Talk on a book she wrote, and it was called The Power of the Unpopular. And her whole idea is, we embrace so much to, if you're a celebrity or if you're a business and you're trying to be everything to everyone, and you want to get that market share where everybody's embracing you and it's all exciting and stuff. And her thing was the other way. She said, no, what's great is when people don't like you. It's actually great because it puts in focus more what you are and what you're about. And what they don't like about you is also in focus. And so you recognize, like, I don't have to push, resources and hardworking. So someone who's just absolutely not what you're about. I mean, you can have the greatest store in the world, but if I don't like your product, I literally don't like your product, not just how you're making it, I just don't want that product at all.
Yeah.
Then you don't have to market to me. You don't have to work at me to do this. You could just be a great store, a good community member. I'll embrace that, but I'm never going to buy your thing. Well, don't spend so much time working on me. Work on the people who are in your tribe. Make it even more a part of it and even more of an ally. And from that, you'll grow and have strength. And I love that idea of not to ostracize a population, but to recognize that the people in your core, you can keep growing that. You can keep growing that. It's the same thing I say about the alignment of whys. Like when you first start off at anything, our podcast was the same. I mean, just a perfect example. We started it and we're like, okay, who are people we know that we like?
Oh yeah.
We'll bring them on. We start with that. We didn't start with some unknown person like, okay, let's see if we can do this. We started with our own stuff so we can get comfortable and figure out what we're going to do.
Yeah.
We start within our own tribes. Well, that's another way of saying, I sort of believe what you believe. I dig what you're about. You dig what I'm about. So that's a comfortable moment that we can start.
Yeah.
We can't live on that. You can't stay within your tribe and just be isolated. But
Right.
you start with that and get that core together, and you just temper people in slowly but surely. And you start bringing people in. That's why, like in New York right now, the things that are happening in this revitalization, they're not going to be happy for everybody. They're not going to be positive for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, of course it's not. There's no way that that's going to happen. There was just an event downtown. It's it's a farm to table dinner.
Yeah.
This big
Yeah.
table on Beaver Street, right? It's an amazing thing, and we talked about this on our podcast. But it's like, 200 people showed up, and it was really a great event. It's a good fundraising event and all that stuff. But moments after it started, you had people on social media and stuff saying like, "Oh, great, Beaver Street's closed. Oh man, it's stuff like that." And it's like, okay, I get it. You're not. This isn't for you. No problem. It's not meant for everyone. If it was, that would be creepy. That's like our darling leader says everybody show up for dinner on this street. I mean, I would be freaking out over that. So
yeah, that'd be a little because I actually rode past that and I was like, I was just trying to figure out why Beaver was blocked off because I couldn't figure out why it'd be blocked off on a Sunday.
Right. Yeah.
And I rode past and I was like, oh yeah, farm to table dinner. That's cool. And if I was gonna say if I wasn't on a super strict diet, I would have went. So like I'm the least fun. I'm the least fun person to market to because I don't want it. I'm fine with what I like.
Yeah.
I'm fine with not eating Pennsylvania Dutch food. I'm fine with but I'm still fascinated by all of it.
Yeah.
Like I want to have Jason from Gift Horse on because I'm fascinated by the process of making beer.
Yeah.
It just...
He's a cool interview, man.
Yeah, I've met him a couple of times through Devin and John, actually. And, no, he's an interesting human being. Like, that's why I wanted to do the Wine and Beer Fest, or Yorktoberfest, was because I still think it's fascinating. Like, from every aspect, like, sober or not, and the thing is that, like, with for me personally, like my sobriety was a choice, and I know a lot of people have a rough time with it because they're like, oh well, I can't go to this because this is here.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm over it at this point. Like I faltered once, I'm good, and I'm able to handle that. But like I don't have the urges anymore. I'm good to go, so I can go and explore all of that and be involved and still be on my and not be a sore not be a sore thumb about it. Like,
and you said that at the beginning when you were like, a lot of community development stuff, if it's based around, beers and wine and festivals and stuff, is like, how can that someone else who's not into that embrace what's going on in the community? And that's why I think it's important for all of us to keep a wide lens onto all these different things that are going on in the community, because there's a shit ton of stuff going on, and you could miss it because this is bright and shiny and loud and saying a lot of shit to you, and this thing is a little quieter. But this is something that you could dig into,
right,
and really embrace it, and then that becomes your story. You go back and say, man, I think this thing needs to be told even louder. More people need to know it's there, and all of a sudden that becomes the next great thing. And I think there's a lot of places like that are starting or developing new or developed ideas that are just on the cusp of like really setting us apart as just another thing. First Friday, again, I've only been here for 5 years, but when we started, when I came on and I was working at Downtown Inc., and the First Friday was 20 some people, 20 some stores. Now on the thing is 60 some stores. It's grown like a hockey stick. It's gone up super big. And you could argue more people like it, more people embrace it, and what's going on. Or you can simply say that's the natural course of things, where people are realizing like, oh, right, I can go to First Friday, and that doesn't mean go to the White Rose and drink. I can walk around and see a lot of things. I can bring my kids because there's a lot of kids activities. I can go see a gallery show. I can go to First Friday and go to Small Star Theater and watch a movie. So in a way, and that's a weird thing, right? You can go to First Friday, which is this big experience, all this different stuff. But you go in and sit for 2 hours inside a movie theater. But you're still doing First Friday. You're still doing something that's pretty amazing. And Patty Stirk will tell you, like, there's community in that movie theater too. Believe you me, there's a really neat movie theater.
Is Patty the one that runs up?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
What's up, Patty? Yeah, she's awesome.
I didn't realize that. I'm actually gonna be in contact with her soon. Then.
Yeah, that's over.
I was curious.
That's over in the Wico on Market and. The Wico district over there, and it's really cool because it's a real small movie theater. When Prince died, it's like literally hours after Prince passed away. I remember Patty sent a message on Facebook to a couple of us, and she's like, "I want to do like a like, does anyone have a copy of Purple Rain? I want to play Purple Rain. I want to do a thing. And we all sort of ran around and like, I'm an old ass, so I'm just like, I have it on VHS. I felt like such a jerk. I'm like, I can't help. That's the way. But she did this, and like, we had a full. I mean, we all went to Small Star. We watched Purple Rain together, and it was fun. Like, everybody was there, just wanted to do it, and it was just out of the blue. And I was like, how cool is this? Like, this is community at its best. Like, just finding some weird thing to embrace something where we can all get together and do something, That's the stuff like that is really, to me, is super fun. I love when stuff like that happens.
Yeah, and I've been so lazy about following up with going to Small Star because, like, man, I have the same stereotype that everybody else does. It's like when I go to the movies, I want to watch The Mummy and eat popcorn. Like this is my time to be dumb. I'm busy reading philosophy all week. It's like she played Captain Fantastic, which I'm glad that I didn't go to because I watched it here at home. I couldn't make it through 25 minutes of it. Like, Viggo Mortensen just gets me, and my wife loved that film. And there's a lot of films that are out there that she's like she has a very good vein of intellectual films that are just wonderful and important to watch.
Yeah,
super important to watch. Yeah. But
they're doing great stuff over there. It's just a cool little place. I mean, it's just kind of fun. And now Collage, the one place that was out near the York Hospital, has now moved into the building with them, so they do a lot of the art that's in the front. And
okay.
It's kind of neat. Like, it's one of those things. Again, it's a very experience kind of thing. Like, yes, we can go to Frank's Theater and check out a good flick, and believe me, half the time I want to go there because I want the IMAX and I want the whole big schmank thing.
Yeah.
But if I want to get into a really cool sort of small indie intellectual type film, that's awesome because you can just lay back in like the couchy chairs they got there and just kind of chill and watch the thing. I think those are the kind of things that need, and those are the little nuggets of our communities that sometimes we miss.
Oh yeah.
And it's only because people go, oh, it's just a movie theater. Because they're thinking like homogenous wise, like it's a movie theater. It's like, no, man, this is like somebody's cool living room,
That I was gonna say I'm definitely gonna go down there.
She's awesome.
What's
up, Patty?
I have her on my friends list anyway because I saw she was a photographer for something too, but anyway. But yeah, no, that was the thing. It was like I think I talked about with Dre was doing just a movie night for Poolside.
Yeah,
just going to a theater, doing 25 minutes in front of everybody, watch a movie together, and then sit and discuss the film. Like, because I realized the other day I posted that essay on I went super deep on Mad Max, which I mean maybe it was necessary, maybe not, but I love going super deep on film, and I like to do it verbally with other people because I need to see other people's vantage point. Like, my wife and I discussed Mother as soon as we got out of it, and like she saw it a little different.
Yeah,
but she understood she understood the premise I was going for, and I was like, yeah, dude, that's all about how the internet can ruin your life.
I'll tell you, that's a movie. That's like
it's rough.
That is like a thesis waiting to happen.
Oh yeah, it was beautiful, and it wasn't one that was like Pan's Labyrinth. I really had to think about, and Mirror Mask, another Guillermo del Toro film. I had to really think about it afterwards. It's like, no. While I was watching that, it was all coming to me.
Yeah.
Oh, I totally get this. Yeah.
Can I say, speaking about movies and stuff, I want to bring back Dre again.
Yes.
I gotta say, man, that kid blows me away. He's the fact that he figured out like what he wanted to do in the skate scene with his movies and producing them, and it cracked me. I mean, I was listening to your podcast in my office alone, and out loud, I just started laughing to myself when he said like, I realized pretty quickly like I'm not the skate. I couldn't do the basic skate move, and he's like, I like to embrace the skate life, but I am not a skater. And he found his way with his ability to take his creative sense of movie and production and bring it into his social connect, which is the skate life, and put those movies together. I mean, that is pretty badass. I love when people embrace and they find their way,
right,
and they tie it into their passion of stuff, and they can figure out where it is. Like I was tripping out when you guys were talking to Powell Peralta, and I was like, holy shit, Powell Peralta! Like,
yeah.
And I started thinking about my old Steve Caballero board. And
jeez.
Oh God.
Yeah, you should have never gave it up.
No,
you should have skated it either.
I should have just hung up on a wall.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing was a work of art on the back end anyway. The inside of the boards are always gorgeous. But yeah, I started laughing about it. Like, oh my God, this. But I love the fact that he's found his path. He's realizing a path at such a young age, And even if it's not the end all be all for him, he's on a way. He's doing something great. And I just love that kid. He's so funny. He makes me laugh. Sorry,
Yeah, no, you're
you're
good. What time you got there? Anyway, is it 10:30? Just about.
Oh, geez, you hit it right on the mark. Yeah, it is.
Okay, cool. No, that's good. But yeah, no, it is like that's why I want to have him on because I saw what he was doing and I was like, well, I know where he comes from. He comes from two people that decided to take up their own and make their own way, and it's like I wonder how that really reflects on somebody that's dealing with, like, we have the suppositions of millennials, we have the suppositions of this generation and this, that, and the other, and it's like, and that's all you hear, and it's like, well, here it is directly from, no offense, the horse's mouth, but it's a saying.
Yeah.
Sorry, buddy, you wouldn't get it. But straight from the horse's mouth, it's like, okay, well, this is what he deals with. He's in that situation now, and doesn't seem that bad. And he doesn't seem that quote unquote lazy or all that stuff. Like, because we, again, just to go back on all of it, it's like, we make really shitty suppositions about people that we don't know, and just this, that's it. That's what they are. Like, millennials are terrible people. Well, and your grandparents sucked. It's like, okay. Whatever.
I had to do this at a conference, man. Exactly the same thing. I got to do. I was doing a keynote at a nonprofit conference, and the folks had me. The topic was embracing generations. Like how do our nonprofit sector work with the baby boomers and millennials, and that sort of this thing. And it was funny because I got up there and I said, first of all, I'm offended because I'm a Gen Xer, so you guys didn't even talk about me, so I'm a little pissed that. But then the other thing I said is, it's funny, we are exactly what we said we didn't want to do. Every generation as they grow up, they don't, they think their parents are too square, and they think the people before them were old timey, and that we're the new innovators. And then somewhere down the road it tips over, and then we become the old. And we become the old timies, and they become the innovators, and we just say those kids don't get it and they don't understand. It's like there's no we set this up. It's like a false dichotomy. Like, millennials are lazy and they're terrible and they don't appreciate what they have because everybody got participation trophies, so they don't care about anything. And it's like, wait a minute, man. I'm pretty sure our parents told us that. I'm pretty sure we're going to tell our kids that. I'm pretty sure that's what we do. We look at the older generation and say, you're old, you don't get it. And we look at the young and say, you're lazy, you're not ready. And because we want to put ourselves in the middle and say, this is the Goldilocks, right? We're in the middle and we're perfect. We're right here.
And just...
come on, man.
I was going to say, I'm not even sure... I'm pretty positive I fall under millennial as born in 85. Because there was X and then Y and then meh. But
generation,
you were Gen Xer and you were 72, so it's just, good Lord, I don't even know anymore. And it's like, well, okay, so let's take it as example. You want to call me a millennial? That's fine. I'm halfway paid off a house in 3 years. I've got 3 years to go on it. Do you want to call me lazy? I work 70 hours a week and it's at one job with benefits and a future.
Right.
I mean. Yeah, it's just like war. War doesn't matter until you tell me a story. Yeah. War as a whole,
that's a good line.
Doesn't matter whatsoever. It's just you go see Dunkirk and you see four people that are trying to escape or trying to stay alive.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect you in any way because it's such a natural thing. War happens. But when you tell me the story of Dick Winters, oh, it matters now.
Now it's something.
I'm watching his guys die. I'm actually watching Bill Gardner's the last one left. I think he's the only one out of that whole company that's still alive.
We put this up in a big abstract. We put it up in a big bucket and say, well, let's talk about that. And it's like that can't be talked about that way. Yeah. It's just too much. It's too big. It's too wide. Gen X. So I was angst driven and I wore flannel. Yeah. And all I cared about was the next Alice in Chains concert. Apparently, I mean this was what I was. And Kurt Cobain was apparently my prophet. What I mean? And I was like, okay, I kind of like Alice in Chains a lot. I don't wear flannel too much, and Kurt Cobain was a hell of a writer. Yeah, but he's not that the way you just described it. I wouldn't think of that at all. It wasn't just my thing. I don't know. I just think that too often we take too long and say, let's find out the box that we need to put them in. Yeah, and it's the perverse way of thinking about find your tribe, because I am a believer in the tribes. I really do think that you embrace your tribe because you win. We win when our tribes are strong. Yeah. But I think sometimes we go too far that way and we think the tribe needs to have the most amazing descriptives and everybody's got to check all the boxes, and that's how we know if you're in or not.
Right.
And it's like, well, wait a minute, no, that's not exactly what it is. The best tribes, to me at least, the best tribes are the ones that have the core values. That's the whys, the we believes, and then from that you have everything on the bell curve. You have the major majority, and then you have the outliers, and those things matter just as much because that's where the progress happens, to me, at least to me.
Yeah.
You know, punk rock doesn't happen unless somebody says this needs to change, because the record industry didn't want it to change. They were living large doing Frampton Comes Alive and all that big shit. You know what I mean? They loved that. They were making money hand over fist. So why would they need the Ramones? Why would they need television or Talking Heads? They didn't need that. They didn't want that. They didn't match their box. You know.
Yeah.
And the other guys said, forget it. I don't need that. I don't need the box. You know, the hell with the box. So.
Well, I was gonna say, let me make a quick example of all of that, because you're right about the music industry. And so 56, the first long playing record comes out, and they realize it's profitable. So the Brill Building in Nashville, they start bringing in composers and musicians and all this, and they start figuring out a way to scaffold music into exactly what it needs to be. Then through the 60s is the payola scandal. Then we assume that the payola scandal never dies. Payola, for anybody who doesn't know, is when you pay a radio station an exorbitant amount of money to get your song the most spins. That's why Elvis is popular.
That's why you stick it in a 45 sleeve and just cash in the sleeve there.
And so there's the payola scandal. There's the FCC fight in court. The assumption that payola is dead, right? Punk rock comes, and we still assume that it's dead. You know, payola's dead. Look, we broke the system because punk rock and all this. And it's like, okay. So the original thinking of the guys in the Brill Building in the 50s is still there. That's exactly what motivates the current music industry. Whether or not they can openly hand over a 45, well, obviously not a 45, but a hard drive full of cash, they just can't do it anymore. So it's not open. So they find ways to subvert it, and it's still the problem of old thinking. So the example was, my dad and I were talking the other day. My dad's an older fella. He's 65, so he's twice my age, and which is cool. Things like that still do happen. But anyway, so like my dad and I fit in that whole we still don't know what party we belong to at all politically. So we both have very open conversations about what needs, what goes on. So my dad said to me the other day, if they were working on electric cars in the 70s during the first gas crisis, why do we not have more? Why isn't everything electric by now? And I said, because we decided in the 80s to go to war for a thing. So we went to war for oil, and we're still at war for oil. I said, so we took old thinking, because we were talking about World War One. Jim Abels is coming on. He's a World War One reenactor, he's a historical reenactor coming on. So we were talking about that. That's where all that came from. I said they took the most primitive form of war and applied it to today. I said they applied it in the 80s, when in the 80s we started the war on drugs and should have been focusing on the war on education and actually educating people to understand that computers should have been built here, whatever, patriotism, whatever, barring all those motivations. I said, we had to rely on China and Japan to build all of our electronics. I said if we would have actually not gone to war for old reasons and instead taught people how to do that here, and somebody could now pick up a USB drive and a battery and turn it into a tank, they had that kind of base skill, I said cars would fly. But we were too busy fighting for old ideas. Yeah. And we just, because it's, who knows? For whatever reason, who knows?
It's interesting how things work out, and it doesn't always work out the way that history wants it to go.
Yeah.
I'm reading right now, the book I'm reading right now is David McCullough's book on the Wright brothers.
Oh, okay.
And I love David McCullough. I just love his voice. And so I just hear his voice when I'm reading his stuff, which I guess makes sense. And I love the fact that, here are these two knuckleheads from Ohio that had no funding whatsoever. They had nothing. And here's this other guy who was totally embraced by all the intelligentsia and was funded by the Smithsonian to get this done for the federal government, to make this aeroplane happen.
Yeah.
And he's the guy who puts his stupid little thing in the drink in the Potomac. It fails miserably. And they spent millions of dollars on this thing in 1902 money. They spent all this money on this thing, and it just dies out. And these two bicycle knuckleheads are like, we could figure this thing out. Neither one of them had an engineering education.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing. They lived at home with their dad. They didn't even have their own house. They all lived together with their sister and stuff. It's crazy. And they just kept chugging away. And then they figured out like how they get to Kitty Hawk and how they get down there. They just did some research, and they're like, hey, it's really windy there. Let's go there. So they go from Ohio to this down place in North Carolina, and they figured out how to do all this stuff. And everybody who was anybody in terms of intellectual, artisans and stuff, they were like, I don't know how these guys are doing it. And their answer was, we worked at it. I mean, I don't know. We just worked at it. We just figured there was a way to do it. So we figured it out. And there's one guy, I'm at this part in the book that's really interesting. There was this one point, like they figured out the dynamics of it and stuff, and they could get it by what they were building with their bikes and stuff. They could figure that part out. Then they had to come to the mechanics of an engine, and they're like, shit, I don't know. Literally, they just go back to the bike shop, and they go to the bike guy, one of the bike shop guys, and they're like, hey, do you know stuff about, I don't know, engines and stuff? And he's like, I don't know. I'll try it. And they start mucking around with this, and there's all these cool pictures of like the bike shop is like all the front is like all the bicycle stuff, and then like halfway all the way to the back is just the rigging.
Yeah.
This guy toying away. You see these pictures are like, how in the hell is this thing gonna fly? Because then they realize like it's way too heavy, and they got to thin it out and all that stuff. And I'm not mechanically inclined at all, but I'm just amazed by this because like. Nowadays you think like, oh, right, go on the internet, find a blueprint, figure it out, go to step by step. There's probably a YouTube channel how to build an engine. I can do that.
Yeah.
This guy's like, I don't know. And then one of them, it's like, all right, somebody get on that and fly. And you're like, what? Like, no gear, no parachutes, nothing. Just like, all right, I'll go up there and see what happens. I'm amazed by that. I'm amazed at DIY spirit.
Yeah.
And that kind of idea about it. And I guess that's why, like, I played music. I started on trumpet when I was in 4th grade.
Uh-huh.
And I love like jazz and blues. That's probably my favorite stuff.
Oh yeah.
And the reason I like it so much is that it's a journey of stuff. It's not like I know the tempo and I know the key and that's it. So now we'll figure out what we're gonna do. And I love that whole idea of like you can sort of meander through a song or figure it out or have a general idea what the song is, but I don't know what I'm going to solo on yet. But when I get up, I'm going to just show off something I want to do, and I don't know how good it's going to be. I'll just kind of figure it out. And I just love that stuff. I love when people innovate that way. Just kind of think of an idea and say, "Oh, damn, I'm going to figure out how to do this. Let's go. Let's just do it."
I had a super weird nightmare about the upright bass that I used to have last night, and no, that's the thing about it. It reminds me of a conversation I had with somebody who was he was a guitarist and he was really into jazz, and he's like, yeah, I play in the church band and stuff. I just don't understand how jazz works. And I was like, I said Miles Davis said it best. He said you learn how it works, and then you figure it out from there.
Mm-hmm.
He said you learn how an instrument works from start to finish.
Yep.
Every bit of it. You master that instrument, and then you go play it, and you figure out where the music goes. Because jazz, not to diminish jazz, but jazz was just finding the feeling of the room and taking it where it goes next. And it's like there are a lot of people that I had that problem for a while, where it was like, okay, well, I could draw something if I was mimicking it. If I had an image, I could take that image and freehand it pretty close, but I had to have the original image. Yeah. It's like jazz is the breaking of that boundary where you're like, there's no image.
Yeah.
You make it as you go, and by the time you're done with it, it's more than likely the most perfect thing that you've ever seen.
So as a drum player, I have to tell you, like, Miles is my man. That's my man. And so I'm in the camp of Kinda Blue is the greatast jazz record of all time, if not one of the best records.
I have to agree.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Now we're in sync.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna love this. Now maybe podcast listeners might not know this. So when Kinda Blue was put together, he put his band together. And they do a thing called modals. That the whole way he created the Kinda Blue sessions were based on modals. So it's not based on key. It's not based on melody. It's based on these little riffs and these little things that they would kind of muck around with. He got his band together. He wrote the chart for it. He didn't give anybody the charts ahead of time. So most of the record are first take.
Oh wow.
Or first or second take, and they had no rehearsal for it. And his whole thing was like, if I brought you in, I have recognized that you're good.
Yeah.
And I'm banking on that. So I'm just going to give you the charts now, and we're just going to go. And so, like very much like you said, like I didn't have anything to mimic. They had nothing to base this off of. They just knew they were aware of what he was trying to do as he's passing out the charts.
Yeah.
Now I try to put myself in that mode. I try to go back to 59 and think if I was in that room. First of all, I'd be pissing my pants. I'd be frightened as all giddy up. But I guess that's why those guys are in the room, because they're not thinking that. But the moment they sit down and it all, upright bass starts. Once that starts, then it's like, oh damn, now we're off. We're gonna figure out what it is. And nobody in the room knew what was happening. They just knew kind of where they were gonna go with this.
Yeah.
And I always said if I was a good thief, I would try to get somehow to go to Columbia Records. I want the masters of that. I want to hear the whole thing, all the riffs, through it out, because I bet you there's some badass stuff of that. I mean,
did you? I was gonna say, did you watch that movie with Don Cheadle as
the Miles?
Yeah.
Where he's hiding his masters.
Yeah, oh, God. I mean, you see that and like, you think, especially as a younger guy, it's like, yeah, jazz was for old people, and it seems like it's so like. God, my only example was like Yanni as a kid, and you're like, man, jazz looks dumb. And then you figure out what jazz influenced, where jazz lives, and you're like, okay, it makes sense. Like, all the beats, every one of the beats loved jazz. They loved, Upper Manhattan. They loved hanging out in Harlem. And it's like, oh, well, you influenced all my favorite writers, and and the only reason they're my favorite writers is because they got a feeling.
Yeah,
that's it. Like, Burroughs and Naked Lunch, it's not a book, it's a feeling.
Yeah.
All of his work, he doesn't make sense because he's a feeling. That's all. So Ginsberg was the same way. Ginsberg was sadness. Yeah, like I was gonna say, let's throw them all as Inside Out characters, but it's like, take that, and then you take, because I always made fun of Kerouac, because a friend of mine really liked Kerouac most, and I was like, he's just too vague. That was my only thing, was that, like, I always felt like on the road, he spent a lot of time on the road to only give me a 95-page book back. That kind of pissed me off.
Yeah, what are you holding back, pal?
Well, and then I thought about it. I was like, let's look through all his poetry and all his other work. Okay, impulse. That's all. Yeah. Impulse. He's the flash. He's the flash of a moment. And then after that, I took that. I got that, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
And that's another thing too. Getting back to music is the same thing. Impulse is a big deal.
Oh yeah.
Like I mostly go to trumpet players because trumpet was my thing. But there's a lot of real famous saxophone players. There's a guy named Sonny Rollins, and he's known for this. Like, if he's on, he's doing some amazing stuff. And if he wasn't feeling it.
Oh yeah,
he would just like check out, and he just wouldn't do it. And you think like, damn, what's going on with this guy? What's wrong with him?
Yeah,
and he always said he was sort of like a vessel. Like if the trade winds caught it, he'd get something out to you. You love it, but if not, you're just sorry. It's a calm day. I got nothing for you.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, what? And if you're a band on tour, I'm sure you have certain spots where you're like, I'm not feeling today. But you're not just gonna go out and go, sorry guys, I'm just gonna play this G chord all day.
Yeah.
They're gonna be like, no, let's go through the song. We'll just go through the motions. And I'm sure 90% of the population of that audience is gonna go, that was a great show, because they came to hear you, right?
Yeah.
And Rollins was the other way. He was like, if I'm not feeling it, I don't even want to give you this. Even though the guy was like a crazy good saxophone player, and he probably wouldn't have known at all he was phoning it in.
Yeah, that's the, like, it is. They're that form of mastery that everybody looks up to, and then when you get, like, when you're looking at it from the outside in, you're like, okay, well, your warm up is better than your warm up is is something I could never achieve. Like, I think it's behind me, but like Mike Hawthorne, who animates Deadpool or draws Deadpool in the comics.
Yeah,
like he did a signing here at Susan's Gallery. It's not on the top of my head. It's okay. But anyway, he did a drawing, or he did a drawing in the for his journal release at Susan's Gallery, and I was like, just being weird. I was like, Brian Posehn is one of my favorite stand-ups. He also writes. He's the writer on Deadpool, so Mike knows him personally. And I was like, just draw me Brian Posehn. And he's like, all right, it might not be the greatest thing. And he drew it, and like, I could hang it up in a gallery.
Right.
Like it's just like Mike. It's the end of the night. You just did 400. Like he just did 400 sketches in a row because people are coming in to see him for this event. I snuck in because I knew him from the comics. Like I snuck in last minute because I knew him from the comic store, and he's like, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll get you whatever you need."
Yeah.
Because I was like, "Oh, don't worry about it. It's past 9:30. Let's go home, Mike." No, I'll do your sketch. It's like, okay, well, your bad work is my greatest work.
Yeah.
Like yes, and you see people like that, and you're like, how could you ever think that? And it's, well, on the inside, it's like, if you're that good at it, you never want to put anything bad out.
Right.
And you're not, and it's not a fear of putting anything bad out. It's just an unwillingness.
Right. You're choosing out of it.
Yeah.
No, I think a lot of artists do this in so many ways where even if you're not into that type, if you're not into that genre of music, you're not into that style of art or something like that, you still got to appreciate the talent.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? You still got to look at the talent.
Yeah.
When I was in college, I went to Syracuse. So when I was in college in Syracuse, Chuck Mangione's brother was in the music department.
Was it?
Right? So, which is one of those funny phrases, like, I'm Chuck Mangione's brother. Like,
yeah.
He's not even...
Yeah, you're not even Chuck Mangione. Oh, my God.
So, sure enough, like, every year, like, we'd have this symposium, and Chuck Mangione would come. Now, again, as a trumpet player, I'm like, all right, that's cool, man. He's a cool dude. But if you're not into, Chuck Mangione, you're like, what the hell is this guy? And sure enough, there he is. He's putting his flugelhorn together, and he's starting to warm up. And his warm-up, we're all sitting there like our jaws are hanging. We're like, what the hell did this guy just play? And he's not playing anything. He's just playing chords. He's doing little riffs, running around there. I was like, if we just recorded that right now and put it out on vinyl today, millions of people would buy that. Because they'd be like, well, I don't know what the hell that was, but that's amazing.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know. That's me. I'm not even on stage. Like, what are you guys talking about?
Yeah.
It's like, holy shit.
Well, that's like I was gonna say that's a good spot to close on because I gotta pee because that reminds like that kind of awe is when the Beatles brought over Ravi Shankar.
Yeah.
And he was in front of a crowd that he'd never been in front of, and he's sitting there. He's warming up his hands on his sitar, and it's like a 7-minute warm up. He's just warming up. Everybody's freaking out. Everybody's clapping, and it's like,
I haven't started.
Thank you. I guess I'll start now.
And now the show.
Yeah, the mastery, like, just beautiful.
Just appreciate people in their craft.
Yeah,
appreciate what they're doing.
absolutely. So, well, thank you so much, Doug. Where can everybody find you? You were on TED. You did a TED Talk, a satellite talk.
I did. I got to do 2 TEDs actually.
Wow.
I did a TED Talk in Flint, Michigan,
Ooh.
and I did a TED Talk in Washington D.C. in Foggy Bottom, near George Washington. But
okay.
Got lucky. Got asked to do 2 of them, so that's pretty cool.
What I was gonna say, how do you end up on those? Because like that seems like that seems like the intellectual top of the mountain right now.
It was kind of cool, I must say.
Yeah.
Both of them were really good times. I don't know. I think the Flint one was I had some clients up there. I had done some stuff in Flint before, and I think one of the organizers, because all the TED Talks are locally organized, you know. He just called me up and he said, "Hey man, we want you to come out and if you can and talk about the connection economy and the nonprofits and all this kind of stuff." So I did that there, and then I think that spurred on the Washington one, which is ironic because I was living in Washington. So my first TED Talk was out in Michigan, and then I did one in Washington, D.C., which is kind of funny.
Oh, that's cool.
But it's just really, really fun. I always had this like image. I wanted to go to the main TED stage. Just kind of do that. But I don't think that's happening anytime soon. But
I was gonna say I watched a bunch of magicians on TED. I watched a bunch of magicians that were doing TED Talks on mysticism and stuff like that. That's really good.
The thing that's TED is cool is that it is so different. There is no. I mean, they generally have a theme. Like the theme for one of them was like the letter P for persistence or something. They always have like a general theme.
Yeah.
But the topics that come out on stage are so different. So the green room is amazing. You're sitting there talking with all these people, and you're like, wait, what are you talking about? And you start hearing all this stuff. I got to meet Tony Hsieh, the guy who ran Zappos.
Oh wow.
And he was amazing. Like he was absolutely amazing, and just interesting how he thought about culture and how he thought about corporate culture and good work environments and stuff like that. And I thought that shit was amazing by all the stuff he's talking about. And then like 2 seconds later, I'm talking to a former NFL player who's talking about the importance of CTE and what's going on with concussions and all this kind of stuff. And then two doors down is a teacher, and she's talking about how the importance of pre-K teaching is to the larger development of the human brain. And you're sitting in this room and you're like, damn, dude, this is like a PhD classes and everything. It was really kind of neat.
Well, it is that for anybody who's not familiar with Ted, like definitely get on the podcast or hit him, like run down some YouTube channel, run down YouTube channels with him, because it is that. It is like, I just saw I was kind of disappointed the other day. There's a new service that boils down nonfiction books, like whatever, informational books. They'll give you the core of it. They'll give you the gist of it in 15 minutes. Like they'll give you all the book in all
like
the
Cliff
important
Notes
stuff.
of YouTube.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, well, Ted's kind of like that, but Ted is the Cliff Notes of something way bigger than that. You're going, like, it's a door opener.
Your maximum time is 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So they either have the 5 minute, the 10 minute, or the 20 minute, and that's it. You get it's a hard count, 20 minutes. That's it. And it's now it's spurned on a whole different. I mean, there's other groups that do things very similar, but it's really kind of a neat way to learn stuff. Yeah, so I got to do a couple of those, and I do a lot of those anyway. Like I go to nonprofit conferences, I get to speak at them and do like board retreats and stuff. So it's been fun. I really love doing that. Oh, I'm a talker anyway. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
What am I gonna do?
I think you're actually okay with talking.
Yeah,
so
I'm all right with it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like you're having too rough a time with it. But no, that was one of the things that I had an exciting day because I picked up an old book on public speaking and public speaking for profit, and they're like, yeah, go down to your public speaking. Like they used to have places, whatever they're called, like. Actors have a guild.
Oh, speakers bureaus. Yeah.
Yeah, like they used to have those, and they're like, yeah, you just develop an hour on something, and you go around and you talk about it, and you figure out how to make it work for you all month. It's like,
I thought it was the bee's knees, man. When I got into the Washington D.C. Speakers Bureau, I thought that was such a badass thing. I was like, ooh, this is pretty awesome. But no, they have like. General Colin Powell. It's like, I think they're going to book him first. I don't think I'm going to get that gig.
They have people that are so exciting to meet that you're going to black out. Like you will mentally just fog out. And okay.
All right.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine meeting Colin Powell. That'd be beautiful.
Yeah.
But no, well, thank you so much for your time. And I was going to say, where can it? Is there any links that I need to know of?
Yeah, man. I'll give you a couple. So you can find out my work is at my organization called Connect the Dots Movement. That's my consulting. So I work with nonprofits and small business. I call them social enterprise engines. So small businesses still want to start up. So we're at connectthedotsmovement.org. Connect the Dots Movement is all one word. Connectthedotsmovement.org. I have Facebook and Twitter and all that kind of stuff. That's all on there on the website. And then also because we're going to get you on our podcast.
Yeah,
that's going to be a thing. Our podcast is called What the York. And we do it basically a weekly.
Yeah, it just when you get
week or 10 days, sometimes it goes a little longer.
This one I swear was supposed to be once a week, and this month I think I had 15 or 16 episodes scheduled, and I was like, what in God's name am I doing with myself? And a bunch of them were emergencies.
Exactly.
Look, if you're gonna present me with the opportunity to sit down with Michael Helfrich, one of my favorite people, because he and I met on a disagreement. Like we met for First Capital. We were sitting there. It was 12 o'clock at night. He was alone. I was there with friends, and my friends and I were talking about everything historically. And he just came over and he joined our conversation. And we debated, honest debate, and that's what I liked about him. And then I get to see him grow. I get to see him in random situations. Like we went to the bridge dedication. He looked surprised that I was there. I looked surprised that he was there. So it was great.
Well, that's good. You get to drop everything and then go and do that interview and stuff. That's the fun about the podcast. You can just kind of do it whenever. And, work it out. So yeah, ours is we're on SoundCloud is where we base out of, but we have a Facebook page. So it's on Facebook, facebook.com/whattheyork.
Okay, cool.
So you can definitely check it out there. We're going to schedule time for you to come on and
yes, please do
listen to our nonsense. So
no, I like it. It's a big thing. Everybody that does one, I'm really excited to have met them. I've talked to Zach.
Yeah.
I talked to Zach on an episode. I talked to the guys from Strange Familiars at Monster Mania. We just met the other week, and for some reason I can't remember either of the names right now, but they're wonderful people, and they're doing cool stuff, and it's like, I might be inundated with folklore because it's Halloween, but I still like listening to them. They do a great job, man. And Are You Morbid's great. If you like metal, it's good stuff. It's all out there.
I love that folks are out there doing their thing.
And we need. I was gonna say we need more people to do this. And one of these days, somebody's gonna open a podcast studio downtown and let kids come in. And I think this should be something that's taught in school.
Yeah,
it'd be important and fun and easy. It's like learn how it's mass media.
Yeah,
this is gonna be the next thing. Like radio.
Absolutely.
We've been everybody's been saying it for years. Radio's dead because TV won, but TV's dead because podcasts win. You know,
this is the next generation. This is coming around.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
For a while there. So this is cool, man. No, I appreciate you giving me time to take out and hang out with you.
I was gonna say, and it's 11 o'clock, so
I don't know.
I gotta get ready for work.
I might not leave though, because I might just check a few books out in here.
No,
in this
please
library.
do. I was gonna say
you got a badass collection, man. You really do.
There's a lot of stuff in here that's just weird. Like I get into weird stuff. Like a good sized shelf is L. Ron Hubbard's actual like Scientology books. Like Scientology course books, I have a bunch of them. I want to have them.
I'm just looking through the titles and I'm thinking, whoa, you could immerse in a lot of different things here.
Well, it's just interspersed throughout. My favorite author of all time is Philip K. Dick, because he makes me wonder what reality is. He did Blade Runner, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, and Total Recall, which is We Will Remember It For You wholesale. He's the best. And and my wife's books are up here too. We got like Bob Dylan, because I'm not a big Bob Dylan music fan. I'm a big Bob Dylan writing. He's an amazing poet. He's an amazing writer. Yeah. And I just not a big fan of his music, but yeah.
I see there's a Louis Armstrong Satchmo book. I might steal that one.
Katie's big on Louis.
And then down below I see the Hunter S. Thompson collection, so I might grab one or two of those.
He's my favorite. So all right, well thanks so much for your time.
Take the ride, everybody.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we'll see you soon.
See you later.